Dear students, welcome back to Biology Forum classes once again. This is the only platform where you can get concept-based, information-rich and conceptualized videos on life science. This platform caters students of secondary and higher secondary classes, medical aspirants, and along with this, many competitive examination syllabus we also cover. In the previous class, we have studied about the senescence and abscission procedure, which are interrelated with each other, its different factors related to the processes and the importances of both the processes as well. Today, we will about to study the transport mechanism in plants. So, without further ado, let's begin today's class. Okay. Today we will study about the transport mechanism found in case of plants. How the mechanism work, what are the different types of the mechanism and so on. Okay. So transport in plants, it is a part of the plant physiology module itself. In the previous classes, in the previous lectures, we have covered the hormone portion, senescence, abscission, photoperiodism, vernalization, like several other plant physiology topics. Today we will study about the transport mechanism. Okay. What do you mean by transport? Transport means movement of several molecules and several nutritional elements, several food particles, several minerals, waters, gases throughout the body in case of plants, as we are studying about the plant physiology. Whenever we study about the human physiology, the same process will repeat, but in case of human or in case of animals we can say. Okay. So, to study about the transport mechanism in plants, at first we need some basic introduction to focus on. Okay. So, to say in detail about the basic introduction, I am explaining you this in a very simpler way. Okay, students. So, for the basic introduction, we can say there are two types of transport we can find in case of plants. What are the two types? The first one is short distance transport and the second one is long distance transport. Short distance means cell to cell, within the cell, etc. Okay, and long distance transport is mainly focused on the transportation of several molecules, like several elements like water, mineral, throughout the body of the plant, starting from the root and it goes above up to the shoot portion. Okay, so the distance between shoot in case of tall plants like for coconut tree, okay, or palm tree, the distance of the the height of the plant is so much bigger, so much longer, larger, that the distance between the top shoot tip and the distance between the root tip and to the shoot tip is so much high. So in that particular case of plants, it will be considered as long distance transport. Okay, but within the cell, the transport, or one cell to another cell, the transport, which are residing just beside along with each other, we can say this type of transport as short distance transport. Fine, I think you have understood what I am trying to explain here. So basic introduction, two types of transport will be there: short distance transport and long distance transport. So let's come to the next portion. What are the main elements in case of plants which need to be transported? What are the elements in case of plants which need to be transported? We need to move from one place to another for nutritional purpose or many, so on. Okay, the first one is very obvious: water. We all need water for our daily livelihood, as well as plants also need water for photosynthesis and many other livelihood purposes. Actually, water is life, we all know. So elements to be transported in plants, the first come is water. Okay, the next portion, the next element should be mineral. Like for say nitrogen, take nitrogen as example. Okay, but here is a twist. What is the twist? Water is transported as it is. The various root system of plants absorb water from the soil particle or the water trapped in between the soil particle and transport it throughout the body of the plant. In case of minerals, mineral come in two forms. For example, as if we take nitrogen, it will come in two forms. The first form is organic and the second form is inorganic. So, if we take nitrogen as an example of mineral, these can be present in two different forms. Okay, the first one is organic and the second one is inorganic. Okay, so what is the organic form of nitrogen? We say, or we can defer it as amino acid. Amino acid in short form is written like this: AA. A for amino, A for acid. Okay, so the organic form of, why it is amino acid? We know amino acid is the building block of protein. We all know from our previous classes 9-10, or we will about to study about the fact when we study the nutrition portion. Okay, so we all know that carbohydrate, protein and lipid or fat are the building blocks or body building elements of our, in case of plants or in case of humans or animals. Okay, so protein is made up of what? Protein is made up of nothing but carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen and oxygen. Okay, that nitrogen part is the main element here as mineral, as for example we have taken here. Okay, so in the organic form of nitrogen we can say amino acid. Okay, so what will be the inorganic form? Inorganic form is present in the soil, NO3 nitrate. Okay, so these are the two alternative forms of mineral we can say in case of plants. If we take nitrogen as an example, so water and mineral, two elements we have covered which are need to be transported. The third element would be what? The third element would be food. We all know that plants prepare, as plants are autotroph, that means they itself produce their own food by itself. Okay, there is no one to take care of their food, no one to cook for them. So food mainly referred to as here sucrose, which is a 12 carbon compound. Sucrose, which is a 12 carbon compound, it is carbohydrate. Carbs, you can note it down that sucrose is made up of 12 carbon compounds. Sucrose is made up of 12 carbon compounds. It is organic and it is a form of carbohydrate. I think the board is visible to you. Okay, the food is sucrose and the food plants do produce by the process of photosynthesis, and the production site of the food are leaves. We all know leaves are the cooking station for plants. Okay, so food is another element which need to be transported to those parts of the plant which do not or cannot be able to produce food, like root system. Root is underground, it is present under the soil, and under the soil no sunlight will be there, will go there, and there, that is why root system is not be able to produce its food. That's why the food produced on the leaves can need to be transported to the root system for nourishment purpose. Okay, and the last but not the least element is hormone. Hormones, just we have covered the hormonal portion of plant physiology, auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin and so on. Hormone also need to be transported from one site of the plant to another site for better utilization. Okay, so up to this I think I am clear enough to you. Okay, so let's proceed with the next section. So So let's begin with the next portion of today's class, which is the direction of transport. We already know what are the elements to be transported. Now we have to study about in which direction do the elements will follow to be transported. Okay, so the first element was water, right? I think you can remember the first element to be transported is water. So water is mainly transported via xylem tissue of plant. What is the mechanism? As you can see here, this is the root system, this is the stem, the black portion, and the green portion is leaf or are leaves. Okay, I have taken one leaf here to make you understand the total mechanism. So xylem is like a pipe inside the plant body which is present, and the pipe starts from the root, the pipe starts from the leaf and it goes all below up to the root. So the water which is absorbed by the root system is transported to the leaf via the xylem, the pipe like xylem, and this is goes in one direction, not back and forth, only from the soil portion to up to the tip of the leaf. Okay, there is a pipe-like structure present in between the leaf and the root system, and the pipe-like structure is, we can say, as xylem, and by the pipe or xylem, water is transported to the leaf from the root system in unidirectional manner. Unidirectional, not back and forth, not bidirectional, only unidirectional manner, from root system up to the leaf. Why? Because leaf is the cooking station for plants. These need water for photosynthesis and to produce glucose, which will act as a food source or source of energy in case of plants. Okay, I think up to this you are clear. I am clear enough. Okay, coming to the next portion, which is mineral. Mineral can be transported via xylem or via phloem also. If minerals will transport via xylem, it will be like water, unidirectional way. Okay, only one way traffic. And if it will be transported via phloem, it can be multidirectional, it can be bidirectional. How? Let's focus on this. This is the stem of a plant, this is the root system, this is an old leaf and this is a new leaf. So food can be, minerals can be transported from the old leaf to the new leaf, like this. Minerals which are stored within the leaf can be transported from the old leaf to the new ones for better nourishment. From where do the minerals come? The minerals come from the root via xylem. It goes up till to the leaf just like water. And I have said earlier that minerals can be transported by xylem. In that case, it will be unidirectional from the root to the leaf, and from old leaf to new leaf, or from leaf to leaf transition, leaf to leaf transformation, leaf to leaf translocation of mineral can be done by phloem tissue. In that case, it can be multidirectional or bidirectional. Suppose here is a leaf, here is a leaf, then here is a leaf and another leaf is here. The mineral will be transported from this to this. So it can be in a multi-direction, from right to left, from left to right, from up to down, from down to up. Okay. So if minerals can be transported by phloem, it can be multidirectional, it can be bidirectional also. And if it is transported via xylem, then only it is unidirectional. I think this is clear to you. Okay. Let's proceed with the next section. Let me erase the board first. Okay. The next element to be transported, we know food. Food means sucrose, which is a 12 carbon compound, mainly carbohydrate. Okay, so if it is a stem and this is the root system and this is a leaf, so this is the shoot tip, this is the stem, this is the root, and this is a leaf. We all know. Okay, so food is present over here because leaves are the cooking station for plant. We already know this. So food produced in the leaf, inside the leaves, at first there are three fates. There are three fates of the food. The first is respiration, or to produce ATP. Why? The produced food, first plant use these for respiration purpose or to get energy. Okay, after getting energy, if there is any portion left of that produced food, it will be transported to the root system. It will be transported to the root system because roots are devoid of sunlight. That is why they are not be able to produce any food by itself. So what will be the source of the food for the roots? The food produced inside the leaves after getting utilized by respiration. If there is any amount left of the food, then the food will be transported to the root system and it will be stored there, or the root will get energy, or root will get nutrition from the leftover food. So first is respiration purpose. The food is utilized at first for respiration purpose. Secondly, root, utilized by root, and if after getting utilized by root, another portion of amount of any food left, then it will be stored in fruits. If this is a fruit, for example, the food at first produced in the leaf, utilized for respiration or production of ATP. We all know glucose, which is produced after the photosynthesis. It will be next utilized for respiration purpose, and after by being utilized in respiration, if there is any food left, it will be utilized by the root system. Okay, and after getting utilized by root, it also, if there is another portion of food or excess portion of food is present over there, which is sucrose, it will be transported to the fruit. It will be transported to the fruit, and there fruit will store the nutrition, the food, for further use. Okay, up to this point I think I am clear to you. Let's come to the next portion. Okay, so extra food will be sent to the fruits, and fruits can store the root system. So here is another information I would like to add here for you. For this, let me first erase the board. We all know the three fates of food. First is respiration, second is utilized by root, and third is stored in fruits. Okay, so if the season is early spring, there is one season in the year where no leaves are on the tree. All leaves will fall down after getting matured. We have just completed the senescence and abscission portion, and from this we know that after in a particular season of the year, at a particular season of the year, the leaves will fall, the mature leaves will face senescence, will mature and fall from the tree. In that case, this is the stem and this is the root, and there will be no leaf on the tree. Okay, the season is early spring. In that scenario, the food stored in roots will go up through the stem and will be utilized for production of new leaf. To grow new leaf, plants do also need energy. And from where do the plants get energy? The plants will get energy in that particular scenario from the root system. The roots is in the root system. The food stored in the root system will go up to the shoot tip, and there it will help in production of new leaf. This is an exception to the process, and this we can say that depending upon condition, the direction of the food can be remobilized. Very, very important terminology for you students. It is also mentioned in the NCERT books. You can study from, and it is very, very important for your examination, upcoming examinations. The food is remobilized under certain conditions. What will be the condition here? The condition is early spring season. There will be no leaf on the tree, and to produce new leaf, to produce new bud, the stored food inside the root will go up to the shoot tip, and it will help, or it will provide energy for the new leaf to grow. Okay, up to this point I think I am clear enough to you. Let's continue with the next portion. Let me erase this first. I think you are noting down the important points, students. Okay, here I would like to add one information that the water transported by xylem, and this is unidirectional. I think the board is visible to you. The water is transported via xylem and the direction is unidirectional. This question we have faced in 2019 year. Okay, in the year 2019, this is a very important question for you medical aspirants and board students. Also, it is mentioned in your NCERT books. Also, you can note it down for further. The question can appear again in the examination, and this is very important information for you students. Okay, let's come to the next point. So water we have covered, the direction of transport we have studied. In case of minerals we have studied, in case of food we have studied. What is left? The left is hormone. There are no particular gland present in case of plants, which we know. In case of human, in case of animals, several specific glands present for each of the hormone. But in case of plants, the scenario is just opposite. There is no such gland. Okay, the hormones are produced inside the cell itself. Okay, so I think if you can recall my lecture on auxin hormone, I have mentioned there that auxin hormone show polar transport. Basipetal and acropetal. I think you will be able to recall this. If you are not be able to recall, go to the lecture 1, auxin hormone, all about auxin. You can refer this from that video. Okay. Polar transport. The video is in my channel itself, and you can make a note from this. Auxin hormone show polar transport. What do you mean by polar transport? The polar transport means if this is a stem and this is the root, this is the shoot tip, and this is the root tip. The auxin hormone shows shoot tip to root tip tip and root tip to shoot tip transportation in case of plants. This can be referred to as polar transport, and this is the process, this is bidirectional process by which hormones can be transported inside the body of the plants, especially in case of auxin. So up to this, I think I am clear enough to you. All the elements and the reductions of their all the elements I have explained. Let's proceed with the next portion. So we have covered the elements and its direction. Let's come to the next portion, mechanism of transport. In case of short distance transport, I have already make you clear about the fact that it is a transport between cell to cell. If these are two residing cell residing beside each other, then the cell to cell transportation we can say as short distance transport. But what do you mean by long distance transport? If this is a stem of any plant and this is the root system, for example this is the leaf, here this is stomata. We all know about stomata. Stomata are the small pores present in the leaf, need for transpiration purpose. Okay, so in case of long distance transport, I have already mentioned that tall trees, the transport between the root and the shoot is referred to as long distance transport. So for example, if I consider here root as the entry point of water, because water is absorbed by the root system. Okay, so if root system is the entry site of water, the water is all along transported via xylem. Already I have mentioned it is an unidirectional process to the leaf, and in the leaf, after getting utilized, the excess amount of water is will undergo transpiration. And what is the transpiration? What is the site of transpiration? This is the site of transpiration. By stomata, the excess water will go outside the plant. So this consider this is the exit point of water. Okay, so if root is the entry point of water and all covering all the distance, stomata in the plant leaf is the exit point of water. So the distance is very much long. This is not like short distance transport between cell to cell, beside cell to cell, and in this is considered as long distance transport. Here another part of that portion is the food produced in the leaf, or the food produced in the leaf, all along transported to the root by phloem. Water is transported by what? Xylem. And food is transported, the food produced, already I have mentioned, the food produced on the leaf transported all along the root system via phloem. Okay, clear up to this point, students? So this is a long route journey. That is why the transport is here considered as long distance transport, and cell to cell transport or within the cell transport, okay, is considered as short distance transport. I think I am clear enough. And here the long distance transport, we also can call it as translocation. Translocation means shifting of position. Water absorbed or get entry from here and it shifted its position up to the leaf, and food produced in the leaf shift up to the root, and this total process can be we can say it as translocation also. Okay, so I think up to this, phloem is responsible for distribution of the food produced in the leaf, and xylem is responsible for distribution of water absorbed by the root. Up to this, I think I am clear enough to you. Okay, so what are the different methods for the short distance transportation or long distance transportation, we can say. In case of short distance transportation or long distance transportation, 4 important mechanisms we will study in our class. What are they? Let me write here. So, different methods, right? The first is simple diffusion. Or we can say it as diffusion also. The second one is facilitated diffusion. The third one is active transport. And the fourth one is cytoplasmic streaming. So these are the 4 main methods by which water, mineral, food or hormones are transported inside the plant body. The first one is simple diffusion or diffusion, we can say. The second one is facilitated diffusion. The third one is active transport, and the fourth one is cytoplasmic streaming. For simple diffusion, no energy is needed from external. That is why we can also term it as passive process. In case of facilitated diffusion, from the term facilitated, we already can assume that certain elements, certain processes will facilitate or help the process to go on. That is why it is termed like so. Facilitated diffusion, it is kind of diffusion, but certain kind of channel proteins are important here for the process to happen. The third one is active transport. As the term active mentioned here, this process is active process and it need external source of energy to happen. Okay. And the fourth one is cytoplasmic streaming. So these are the several important methods you should follow, you should study about to understand the transport in plants. Okay. So let's come to the next portion of the class, which is the first method, simple diffusion. Simple diffusion means the movement of molecules from higher concentration site to lower concentration site. Okay? From higher concentration site to lower concentration site, the movement of molecules we can term as simple diffusion or diffusion. Okay? So, I think we can say it as the molecules will go along the gradient. For example, you can see here, this is the number of molecules is very much rich or very much high in this side of the picture, and in the right side the concentration is very much low. So the molecules will go from the higher concentration site to the lower concentration site, and this means that it will go along the concentration gradient. If the opposite will occur from low to high, then we can say it as it will go opposite to the concentration gradient. Okay. In that simple diffusion case, there will be random movement of molecules. We can also notice random movement. Random movement of what? Molecules. Like from here it will go here, from here it will go here. Like this random. Okay. So it will go along the concentration gradient from higher to lower concentration site, the movement of the molecules will be random, but the net movement as a whole, the net movement is from net movement will be higher to lower concentration site, higher to lower concentration site. Okay. So for simple diffusion to explain, we can say it like this, that the molecules will go from the higher to the lower concentration site along the concentration gradient will be termed as simple diffusion or diffusion. Random movement of molecules we can notice, but the net movement will be from the high to the low concentration site. Okay. Next, as the process is not energy driven, means passive, no external energy needed, not required any external energy, not required any external energy, that is why the process is slow. So these are the characteristic features of simple diffusion. We can summarize like this. It will go along the concentration gradient. Random movement of molecules we can notice, but the net movement is along the high to lower concentration site. As the process is not external energy driven, that is why it is slow, and that is why we can also say it as a passive process. Okay, passive transport we can say. So in NCERT, it is already mentioned that, let me erase this first. I think you have noted down all the important characteristic features. Let's come to the next part, which is mentioned in your book. I will attach pictures wherever you need them. In NCERT, it is mentioned that the simple diffusion process is not dependent on the system in which it is occurring. Not dependent on the system in which it is occurring, whether it is in vivo or whether it is in vitro. In vitro means outside any cell, whether it is plant or whether it is animal cell, and in vivo means it is inside any living cell, whether it is plant or whether it is animal. Okay, and also basically it occurs in solid. And what are the elements which can be transported via simple diffusion? Water and gas. Water and gas molecules only can be transported via the simple diffusion method. And it is mentioned in your NCERT book that the simple diffusion method is not dependent on the system in which it is occurring. If it is occurring inside a living cell, that is in vivo, or it can be occur in outside any cell, living cell, that is in vitro, the system is not a matter here. Okay, it is not dependent on the system, and it will occur in solid systems also only. And water and gas are the prime important molecules which can be transported via the simple diffusion method. Okay, so let's come to the next portion. What are the factors affecting the simple diffusion process? There are several factors which affect the simple diffusion process. For say, the first one is concentration gradient. Concentration gradient, it will occur only from high to low concentration. at least the net movement. Random movement also can be seen in that case. So first factor affecting the system is concentration gradient. It will occur from high to low concentration. Next are two important points, temperature and pressure. Simple diffusion is proportional to the directly proportional to these two factors, temperature and pressure. If we increase the temperature, the movement of the molecules will also increase. If we increase the pressure, the movement of the molecules also increase. So temperature and pressure is directly proportional. Temperature and pressure is directly proportional to what? Simple diffusion. If we increase the pressure or if we increase the temperature, the movement in between the molecules will also enhance. Okay, let's come to the third point, which is size of molecules. In that case, it is inversely proportional. In that case, it is inversely proportional to simple diffusion. Why? If the size of the molecules will be bigger, the movement will decrease. And if the size is very little, very small, the movement will increase. That is why the size of molecules is inversely proportional to the simple diffusion process to happen. Okay, so these are several factors. First one is concentration gradient, second one is temperature and pressure is directly proportional to the process, and the third one is size of molecules is inversely proportional to the simple diffusion or diffusion, we can say. Okay, let's come to the significance part. So to study about the significance of simple diffusion or diffusion process, these are here. First one is plant cells use the process for transportation purposes. Okay, it is used in plant cells. The second one is gaseous movement occur by simple diffusion process. What is the process and how does it work? Actually, if you consider this is a plant cell, so assume that there at the left side there are 20 molecules of glucose present, and at the left side 20 molecules of glucose present, and at the right side of the cell 5 molecules of glucose present. So in that scenario, the concentration is higher in the left side and the concentration is lower in the right side. So as the principle is in case of simple diffusion is it will go along the concentration gradient from high to lower concentration side. The molecules will also go from the left to the right side here, as the concentration is bigger in the left side and the concentration is lower in the right side. So by following the principle of simple diffusion, it will go from left to right, and the total process will happen inside a cell. So within the cell or cell to cell transportation can be done in case of plants by simple diffusion method. Okay, here is another scenario which can also be seen in case of plants. Consider it is a leaf of a plant. We all know that oxygen is absorbed by the plants, by the root of the plant in the water, because oxygen molecule is present inside the water, and the water is transported via xylem to the plant for the photosynthesis purpose, and oxygen will be produced there. So inside the plant leaf, oxygen concentration is so much higher than the environment. That is why we say that grow plants, grow our greens for better environment, for better oxygen rich atmosphere we can have, right? So oxygen is mainly produced in the chloroplast and specifically in the thylakoid portion. In the thylakoid portion of the chloroplast specifically, we can say is the production site of oxygen. So as oxygen is produced in the leaf, the concentration of oxygen in the leaf is so much higher than the outside environment, and that is why through the stomata opening, oxygen is passed on to the environment, and this is followed by the simple diffusion method. How? Simple diffusion means what? The movement of molecules along the concentration gradient, that means higher to lower concentration side. So here in that scenario, oxygen concentration is so much high in the inside of the leaf than the atmosphere. So the high concentration of oxygen molecule is present inside the leaf, and the low concentration of oxygen molecule is present outside the environment, because what is meant by outside the leaf. So oxygen will pass, or oxygen will diffuse from the leaf to the environment through the stomata opening. The oxygen will pass from the leaf to the environment, from the higher concentration side which is inside the leaf to the lower concentration side which is outside the leaf, that is the environment. The oxygen will pass on, and this is driven by simple diffusion process. Very simple to understand. I think I am clear enough to you. And along with this, the concentration of carbon dioxide is so much high in the environment than inside the plant. Plant only emit carbon dioxide in the night time. Why? Because C3 cycle is going on there, Kelvin cycle is going on there. That is why we do not prefer to stand under any tree at the time of night, because we have known this from very our childhood time, that do not sit or do not stand under any tree in the night time period, because they emit carbon dioxide. So that is another part of the our syllabus. Okay, just concentrate here. As oxygen is passed on by simple diffusion process to the environment from the tree, by similar method, as the concentration of carbon dioxide is so much higher in the environment than inside the tree, inside the plant leaf or plant cell, by the simple diffusion method itself, carbon dioxide also get entry or can get entry inside the plant cell from the outside environment by the simple diffusion method. Okay, so oxygen is passed on to the environment by simple diffusion method, and carbon dioxide will get entry inside the plant cell by the simple diffusion method itself. Okay, let's come to the last portion of the simple diffusion. Last significance is lipid bilayer. I have drawn the lipid bilayer here. You all know lipid bilayer is present in the plasma membrane. Okay, so this is the structure of a lipid bilayer. The black round structures are hydrophilic head portion, and the red V-shaped portions is the hydrophobic portion. Inside it is a lipid tail portion. Okay, and this total structure is a lipid bilayer structure or lipid bilayer. Okay, so as it is as from the name, it lipid bilayer, that means just concentrate very carefully here, because this knowledge make you better understand about the next process we will about to study. In case of lipid bilayer, lipid easily can get entry from outside to inside. Lipid easily can pass on through the channel. Okay, but if instead of lipid, glucose tries to get entry, or sodium try to get entry, or potassium, it cannot make entry through the lipid bilayer if there is no particular channel or door is there open for them to get entry. Okay, lipid bilayer, from the name itself we can say that, as the name says, lipid bilayer, lipid easily can make entry through the bilayer portion from outside to inside. But as we all know, oil and oil immersion. Okay, water cannot be immersed in the oil, but oil can easily be immersed or mixed with the oil. From that concept, by applying that concept here, lipid or fat, lipid is a type of fat itself, it can get entry through the lipid bilayer. But if we can make, if we assume that glucose, sodium, potassium, water, they cannot get entry through the lipid bilayer. If not, there are specialized channels or specialized doors present for them to get entry. Here specialized channels are there for the water soluble molecules like glucose, sodium, potassium to get entry. Okay, so these are several significance of simple diffusion method. Lipid can get entry easily to the lipid bilayer by simple diffusion method, which is not energy driven, which is slow and passive. But if instead of lipid we need to make entry of glucose, sodium, potassium, any water soluble molecules, then it definitely needs some kind of door, some kind of channels I have mentioned here to get entry through the lipid bilayer. Okay, up to this the simple diffusion method I have completed totally. Next, proceed with the facilitated diffusion portion. Okay, the last portion of today's class we have almost reached is the facilitated diffusion. Facilitated, from the term itself we can say the process is helped by something. It is helped mainly by channels. So these are the various features of facilitated diffusion procedure we can say. The first one is it happen across the plasma membrane. It happen in the lipid bilayer, it happen across the plasma membrane. It is, as it is a form of a type of diffusion, that is why here it will happen along the concentration gradient, that is high to low concentration site. The third one, as it is diffusion, it is not externally energy driven, that is it is slow and passive. And the fourth one, as the most important point here, is it occurs through channels, various protein channels. The channels are mainly made up of protein. So let's come to the mechanism of or mode of action here. Okay, let me erase this. So lipid moiety with tail okay, this is the structure of a lipid bilayer. This portion is hydrophilic. Hydrophilic means it loves water. And the inside portion is hydrophobic. Phobia. We know that different persons have different phobia. Some may have hydrophobia, that is the fear from water. Some have cyanophobia, that is the fear from dogs. Okay, so from phobia, the term phobic has come, and the outside portion of lipid bilayer is hydrophilic in nature and the inside portion of lipid bilayer is hydrophobic in nature. Hydrophilic means it loves water and hydrophobic internal core means water cannot get entry into the inside portion, other than it can get entry through any kind of protein channel. Okay, up to this I think I am clear enough. So if this is a scenario, several distinct protein channels have to be there for the water-like molecules other than lipid. Lipid can easily get entry from outside to the inside portion, as the total structure is made up of lipid. But other than lipid, if it is sodium, if it is potassium, and after all if it is glucose, these elements which are easily water soluble cannot get entry inside the lipid bilayer or through the lipid bilayer or across the lipid bilayer if there is not specified protein channels are there for them to get entry. Okay, I think up to this I am clear. Gas and lipid can easily get make entry, but water cannot make entry irrespective of the presence of protein channel. Okay, I think up to this I'm clear enough. And water can get entry by the process of osmosis. An additional information I would like to mention here, that to pass water through the membrane we need what? To pass water through the membrane we need aquaporins. Aquaporins are several kind of channels through which water can make entry inside the membrane. Okay, aquaporin we can also find them to be present in kidney of animal body, and the total process is facilitated by ADH. Aquaporin present in kidney, and the total process is facilitated by ADH, antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin we can say. Okay, up to this I think I am clear enough to you. Let's come to the next portion of the class. Okay, so there are several protein channels have to be there in the lipid bilayer for the water soluble molecules to pass on or to get entry. The channels will act as a door. Okay, so what are the features of those channels? It must be made up of protein. The channels have enzyme-like property. Enzyme is also made up of protein, so the channels are also made up of protein, and that is why this is interrelated, and the channels have enzyme-like property. What are the 3 prime properties? Selective saturation inhibition. In case of selective, the channels only allow certain selective molecules to get entry inside the lipid bilayer. Not all molecules, not all elements can get entry inside the lipid bilayer as enzyme. Why it is so resembles with enzyme? Because each and every enzyme also have some selective substrate. Not all enzyme can break every substrate. There are some amylolytic enzyme, there are some proteolytic enzyme, there are some lipid solubilizing enzyme. So each enzyme is very selective to their substrate which they will break initially or further process. So like enzyme like property like this, the protein channels are also selective. There are 3 types of protein channels we can find. The first one is uniport. Uni means one, port means transport. Okay, uniport means across the plasma membrane only one directional movement will be seen. Only unidirectional. In case of xylem we have studied in the first portion of today's class that water is transported by xylem from root to the leaf only in unidirectional, and the process is unidirectional. Uniport is something like this. Across the plasma membrane in the lipid bilayer, from outside to inside or from inside to outside, only one direction will be there, and the uniport defines this one directional movement of molecules. If this is a protein channel, only this type of movement can be shown. This type of movement can be seen. Only unidirectional movement can be seen in case of uniport. There are another 2 types which are antiport and symport. This antiport and in case of this antiport and symport, this termed as co-transport. In case of uniport, only one directional movement will be there. Okay, from outside to inside or from inside to outside. Okay, only one direction at a time. But in case of antipode, the direction something like this. At a time, one molecule will go from inside to outside, and at that particular point of time, from outside to inside, one molecule can come. So it will go side by side, from inside to outside and from outside to inside at a particular time. Both way it work. And in case of sympode, movement of molecules will be there. Movement of molecules will be there in the same direction at a time. Same means similar direction. Two molecules will go from inside to outside together or from outside to inside together. In case of sympode, But in case of antipode, one molecule will go from inside to outside, and along with this, one molecule will go from outside to inside together. Anti means opposite and sym means together in a similar direction. Okay. In case of unipode, only unidirection will be there. In case of antipode, opposite direction, and two molecules will go in opposite direction at same time. And in case of sympode, two molecules will go in same direction at a given particular time. And antipode and sympode can be considered as co-transport here. For example, we can say it like this. As an example of antipode, we can say in RBC, red blood cell in case of animals, chloride ion will go inside the cell and bicarbonate ion will go outside the cell. It is termed as chloride shift. This is an exact example of antipode. At a particular given time, by using the channel proteins, in case of RBC, bicarbonate ion will go outside the cell, and at the same time, along with bicarbonate ion, chloride ion will go inside the cell, and it can be termed as chloride shift. This is an exact example of antipode. In case of sympode, we can say, and again in case of intestine. In case of intestine, in a similar way, sodium and glucose will get entry inside the cell. Sodium and glucose. In case of intestine, sodium and glucose will get entry together as an example of sympode. Why? Because glucose cannot be easily absorbed by the cell in the absence of sodium. That is why during any kind of dehydration, we make the patient to drink ORS, oral rehydration solution. Okay. What are the components of ORS? Mainly electrolytes and along with this glucose. Glucose cannot be readily absorbed by the intestinal cell in the absence of sodium ion. That is why in the summer season, doctor prescribed to drink ORS or sugar and salt solution, okay, as a drink. So the sugar is the source of glucose and salt is the source of NaCl, like sodium. Okay, without the presence of sodium ion electrolytes, glucose cannot be readily absorbed by the cell. That is why sympode comes in action here. So I think up to this I am clear enough that selective, I have completed the first criteria of enzyme-like property, selective. The channels are very selective to the participants by whom they will make entry. Okay, after this let's proceed with the next section. So the first property we have completed is the selective nature. Next is saturation. Saturation means if this is a lipid bilayer and these are several channel proteins by which either through unipode, antipode or sympode molecules will go inside and outside the cell. Okay, so if we think that molecule of glucose get entry, one molecule of glucose get entry through this channel by 3 seconds. 3 second time it will need. By opening another channel, 2 molecules of glucose can get entry in 3 seconds. By opening the third channel, 3 molecules of glucose can take entry by 3 seconds, and by opening the fourth one, 4 molecules of glucose can take entry by 3 seconds. So saturation means after a certain point of time, because number of channel proteins are limited. There are not numerous and huge number of channel proteins present inside the lipid membrane. Okay, so if the number of channel proteins are limited, so after a certain particular point of time, the absorption property will also be limited. To increase the saturation or to overcome the saturation scenario, we need to increase number of channel proteins. Okay, can you understand what I am trying to say? I am trying to say that if after opening of the fourth channel, 4 molecules of glucose can get entry in by 3 seconds of time. But if I would like to make absorb of huge number of glucose molecules, more than 4, then I need more number of channel proteins for make them to entry. Okay, so to increase the to overcome the saturation after a particular point of time, there will be a saturation time. Okay, if we draw a graph like this, and it will grow up to 4 channel, this is the number of channel, this is time. At this point of time, when all 4 the channels are used up, the graph will constant here. No more glucose molecule can make entry inside the lipid membrane. Okay, so to overcome, so this is the point of saturation. The number 4 here, it is the point of saturation. Okay, I think I am able to understand what I am trying to say. I am able to make you understand about the process. So after reaching a certain point of saturation time, there will be no exchange of molecules through the channel proteins, because the number of channel proteins is very much limited and the element is very huge. Okay, so to overcome the saturation, we need to increase the number of channel proteins in any particular given membrane. This is the second property of channel proteins. Okay, now come to the last portion, which is inhibition. As enzymes are also inhibited by certain molecules attached to it, the channel proteins also can get inhibited by certain molecules to inhibit its function. Okay, and certain molecules, for example, if this is a lipid bilayer and this is a channel protein, this is a lipid bilayer and this is the channel protein. As channels are made by proteins, the inhibitor molecule will attach to the side chain of that protein moiety and it will make the channel protein non-functional. As we know that proteins are made up of amino acids. Proteins are made up of what? Proteins are made up of amino acid. What is the structure of amino acid? It is a chiral carbon and it has 4 hands. In one hand it has carboxyl molecule, in one hand it has amino group, in one hand it has a side chain, and in one hand it has hydrogen. So the inhibitor molecule will get attached to the side chain portion of that particular protein moiety, that is specifically, to be precise, amino acid. Inhibitor molecule will attach to the amine side chain of the amino acid of the protein and it will make the channel inactive or non-functional. So this is the third and the last property of channel protein. We can say that saturation, selectiveness and inhibition. So this is all about facilitated diffusion, that several types of channel proteins are there in the lipid bilayer which can make water soluble molecules get entry inside the plasma membrane and eventually inside the cell. And this is a passive process, as it is not externally energy driven. Such kind of example for we can say, let me erase here and write it here, several types. I will attach picture of some example of channel protein. For example, we can say aquaporine or porine. There are 8 types. There are 8 types of aquaporine which make water entry inside the membrane, that eventually inside the cell. And I will attach a picture of porine molecule here. Porine is mainly present in the plastids and mitochondria. Okay, what is the site? Mitochondria, plastid, and porine channels are present in those cell organelle, and it will make entry of water molecule. There are 8 types of aquaporins, we can say, and these can make water to get entry inside the cell through the plasma membrane. As water is insoluble in lipid, it need definitely some kind of channel protein to get entry. Okay, I think up to this point the short distance transport mechanism I have completed almost. If there is any question from your side, you can always comment down below or mail me in my email ID for further clarification. Okay. Therefore, we have almost completed our first step towards transport mechanism in plants. We have today discussed background of transport and basic information, the small distance transport mechanism, simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion. In the next class, we will study about the further process of this topic. If there is any portion left you think, or if there is any question from your side, you can comment down below or email me in my mail ID, which is right now popping in your screen, for any kind of further clarification. If you like the video and if you enjoy the learning process with me, don't forget to share the video as much as possible, subscribe to my channel and put the notification bell on always, so that every time I upload any video, you will be get notified. Thank you so much.